Well, hello, hello. Welcome to the Coaching Business Spotlight Fall Series. Our fall series is focusing on the soul-driven success community stories. This fall, we have been exploring the true stories, the successes, and the challenges of the soul-driven success community. And the intention is for you all who are listening. So you have some insight because we all know that stories are our best teachers. So we're here to give you insights that will help bring you success in your coaching business in ways that we coaches want success, authentic, honoring values, letting your light shine for the sake of those that you most want to serve. One thing I learned early on in my coaching career was that though I could coach anybody on any topic, there were some people and circumstances in life that were more interesting to me personally because they resonated. And it might have been around values. We all know that because it was like, ooh, there's just something here I love. So from that, I have created, and this is what we're going to talk about today. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I've created my business, and really all of my businesses, the iterations of my coaching businesses have come from this place of having a passion for something that's happened in my own life that I want to bring and share and help other people with. Not just because I know that what we call a niche, because that's what this is. Oh, this is something I really want to help people with, is at the heart of a good niche. And it is strategic and it is easier to market. But because I know this is at the heart of what we're coaching, successful marketing and sales meet. And what do I put it, like actually meet really helping the people you can most help. And that's why we're looking at stories, because I found that when I can help a coach really get clear on their story and share their story, that part of them that's vulnerable and true, it brings something out in them that helps them connect with other people who share something similar. I've been there. I've done that. I made that mistake. Oh my gosh, that was so bad. It's so great to hear somebody else did it and came out on the other side. So that's what we've been exploring this fall, and it has really been fun. I have been having members of the Soul Driven Success community come onto this podcast to share their stories, what we call origin story. So the origin story is here's something that happened in my life. It might have been when I was a kid. It might have been, you know, a couple months ago, but it's a story that really let me know, oh my gosh, there's something I need to make a change around, something I need to change about myself, how I'm working in the world, the people that I'm surrounding myself with. One of those aha stories that then led them to make the change. And then they found coaching, and now they can share this with you. Today, we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to look at the origin story of a coaching business. So once you have your personal story, and that's a really, really important piece, there's also another story that's good for you to know, as well as one that is very important for the people that you want to help. They want to know. Tell me a little bit. I get this all the time in my consultations. Tell me how did you get this business started? Why did you do this particular thing? So they love the personal piece, but they also want a little more of a story that's like, what about this business and why are you doing this? And to help me illustrate this, I have a very special guest today who is a part of the Soul Driven Success community. He is one of the leaders of the Soul Driven Success community. It's my business partner and my life partner and sweetheart, Curtis Knecht. Welcome to the show, Curtis.
Am I on?
You're on. You're
Thank
on.
you,
We're
Kat.
live. Yeah, my gosh, it's so fun. So Curtis and I talk all the time. We are two people who we are so passionate about, excuse me, about our business. And it's what we both love. We love each other. We love our families and friends and our little cat Coconut. And we love this business. So I want to start here. Here's how I think about it, Curtis. And I want to even put out here to everybody listening. We do have a template for this. What we're going to go over, your business vision story. And it's actually, there's a piece in our Soul Strategy Vision course that we are going to be launching the beginning of next year. And we're going to be doing a preview workshop on December 16th, kind of where you look back at the year and get ready for the new year. But as you're going and listening to the show, if you're like, ooh, I really want to do this myself, you can reach out to me and I will make sure that you get some information about that so you can have that exercise as well. This business origin story, I feel like it connects the dots. This is more linear than the personal origin story, but it has left and right brain because it brings in a story, right? So we're kind of telling the story about it. We don't tell all the facts, but we bring facts in. So I'm going to start there. And as I go along, I'm going to invite Curtis to, bring his memory and understanding and brilliance to the conversation. So we have had many iterations of this business together, Curtis and I, over 20 years. I'm not going to go into all of that, but the most recent iteration started 6 years ago. 6 years ago, after we've been in business, been successful, had a great big deal of success as relationship coaches, and Curtis is a therapist as well. So that really matched his therapy, and we both love the field of relationship. But we had this moment where we decided to shift gears totally and create a business academy for coaches. And
Yeah.
here, yeah, that makes you laugh. What,
Oh, I just
what's
remember a
funny
moment
about?
in the kitchen. We did an exercise. I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but we did
Yes.
exercise where we just kind of randomly, it was a spreadsheet exercise, the kind of thing that's unusual for you to do, but you were doing it.
Well,
And there was this moment. Tell me what you remember about that.
well, I love that you brought the spreadsheet in because I'd forgotten that. So this is left brain, right brain. So Curtis is, he's more the left brain, right? He's bringing on the spreadsheet. I'm more, I have all over our kitchen table. Literally, I took out everything we had created over the years, the workbooks, the card decks, the book, the Soul Search book. I kind of brought out everything, all of we'd had a lot of different training programs and workshops and, real focuses on our niche. I put it all out on the kitchen table. Now, one of the things that was happening at this time was we had on our vision board that we were going to create a spiritual community. We actually had a picture of a church, even though it wasn't going to be a religious community, spiritual community home. And we were looking at it and we put all these things out. And now Curtis is remembering that we had a spreadsheet. Is that what we had the spreadsheet about?
It was
All these
some
things
exercise where you mark things off and then you add them up, and whatever one was the most, I don't. It might have come from what's her name, Marisa.
from Marisa did. Oh
Uh,
my gosh. Thank you for remembering that. I'm going to include that in the vision business story that I'm going to be offering people. I forgot about that. So this is how we did it. We put it all out. And we kind of went through the whole spiritual realm and the relationship coaching realm, and we just went through. I love this, and it came down to just a couple of votes. And being that we're recording this a couple of days after election, I'm like, sometimes it comes down to just a couple of votes. It was not what I thought where we were going to land. So this is the story. And one of the things I always highly encourage people to do is to look at what you have. First, you start with what you have, no matter where you are in business, where you want to go next, build it on what you already have. Put out the things that you know, put out the things that you love, put out the things that you care about, things that have worked for you in the past. And now I love this. Get a checklist. Give it marks. Which part feels like, ooh, that has some weight to it. But this is where we as coaches have the advantage of tuning. We know how to tune in, right? So this is where you look for the resonance. Like, what one feels most alive right now? And when we looked at the whole thing, and I don't remember this exactly, Curtis, it'd be fun to go back and look, but we got, we need to bring this to coaches. This is about taking all we've learned in 20 years and training coaches on how to do this, what we've been able to do to have a successful business. Is that your memory of it, or is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, there is, as you're talking, Kat, I'm thinking this right brain thing. You have such a creative sense, and you bring it to business. And we draw pictures, and we cut out things. We make boards and collages, and they all have great meaning to us. But they're also very practical. And as I remember, you put everything out and we channeled it into this spreadsheet. But the other piece that I remember too is you had done the seminary. The reason it was a church there, you'd done the seminary, you were an ordained minister, you were integrating that with the coaching you were doing and with relationships and women with relationships. And it was just all of this. And then it came down to, well, let's just sort of systematize this in this way that we found, with this Marisa that we were studying with. And we did this exercise. I remember this moment that it really, it was, oh my God, everything's pointing to working with coaches. And you were like, oh my God.
I'm like, no,
Not
that's
what we
not
thought.
not what I thought. And honestly, I want to put this in here because for 20 years I had decided I wasn't going to work with coaches because there was this whole story out there that, there was like a pyramid scheme, like only coaches work with coaches. And I remember hearing that 20 some years ago, and I decided, so no, I'm not working with coaches. I'm going in a whole other direction. That's when we started the relationship coaching work and the spiritual work. All of it was in a totally different direction.
We're sort of edging against it, was saying, no, we're not going to work with
That's
them.
right. So then I love, having your memory as well. It's like, oh, except for since that all that work is done, it actually made the most sense. Not so this is where I want people to be listening to this because you can go in and you can just go the linear way and say, well, and I do recommend this to a degree if you're starting out. What are the low-hanging fruit? Put that in. That's the low-hanging fruit. But you also want to consider things that maybe aren't logical. I love that you're bringing this. Go to both places because what I can guarantee you is there will be a match there. That's what I had. I remember how frustrated we were when we were doing this because I'm like, I just don't see what is it going to be. But as soon as we landed on it, I just knew this is what all of our hard work and so much failure that we'd had and experimenting and trusting people who turned out to not be trustworthy, telling us what we were supposed to do as coaches and continually finding out, oh, I see their strategy they're giving us, but they're actually not teaching us specifically how to use that strategy as a coach for the people we are, for what we care about, for our strengths and talents, for what we know how to do. And I knew how to do that. Like that's what got me. It's like I love teaching. I've been a teacher for the Coactive Training Institute, in one form or another for 20 years. I love to teach. I know coaches and I understand how to bring things through in a step-by-step process. That's like, one of my genius zones. That's a thing I know. I can tell people, well, now you do this, and now you do this, and now you do this. So that was the first piece. And that's where I want when you walk away, we're going to go further, but when you walk away from today's podcast, I want you to start thinking about your vision. People start thinking right now about what's my vision for my coaching business in 2025. It's not too early to start thinking. What's the business model? I like this word, Curtis, of a blueprint, because I felt like, it was a blueprint that had, here's the specs of the rooms. They need to be, 10 by 10. But they also had, here's where the light's going to come in. And, here's where we're going to need something fun to make it homey. You don't need a fireplace or a fountain. Like those are the metaphors that come to me. That there's a blueprint for a coaching business that we tapped into. There's kind of like a vision and a story, and oh, I think this is what it's going to be. Now, this is the next piece I want to put in. I'll be curious to hear what you think about this. I think this is true always. You can only start with knowing so much. So we decided, okay, we're going to work with coaches. That's what we're going to make a home base for. And we really tapped into our values. So our value for the spiritual had been about a community. We hadn't imagined ourselves as majestical, whatever, like we were going to bring something. We thought of ourselves like we're going to gather people together who are of kindred spirits to have a big conversation about what's important, right? So, right from the beginning, community was one of our main focuses.
And value.
Tell me more about that.
It's just a big value. This idea of a community of kindred spirits has always resonated in my heart. And I
Mm,
remember early on when you and I were first together, somehow that name came up, kindred spirits, and it felt like it resonated between us.
yeah.
And that's just been an enduring value of, what's been missing, what's been fulfilling, throughout the time we've been together. And there was something about the church. Are you going to talk about this, how it turned into a school?
We're going to go there next. We're going to go there
Okay.
next.
But
Yeah, yeah.
there's the church. There was something about this spiritual community that resonated because there were kindred spirits. It wasn't a religious thing at all. It was the opposite. It was pretty fun. But most
Yeah.
things you do, Kat, are really fun. So
Well, I love so you're bringing in values.
yeah.
We do a lot of this in our the training course Evolve Your Coaching Business. There's a lot of segments on values, but this is a very specific training I have around business values because most people don't understand. A business value is something that is operationalized. It's a very big word. I know. But it's not, it's like you put it into action. I put this on the site the other day. Value, verb your values. Verb your values. So we had values around community, around kindred spirits. I had a value around teaching, around step-by-step processes, right? We had these values. So we looked at this church on our vision board and we thought, and this again kind of came through that more of an intuitive channel. Well, instead of a church, let's start an academy. And I remember we played around, maybe it was going to be a school, and we played around with a lot of other terms, but I looked them all up and I came to academy having the most accurate terminology, even though it sounded grandiose to me. I'm just going to say, like an academy, but it's like an academy is about a real central form. It's where you go to learn something very specific. And I knew that what we were forming was very specific to coaches who wanted their own business, who wanted a coaching career, and who wanted it to be one that came from their soul. So the first part of the story was we changed the words on the vision board to Business Academy for coaches. And then I did this exercise where I was really looking, we call it the ultimate promise. What was I going to promise people? And the promise that I came up with was that it would be soul driven. They would have success, but I had a coach at the time. She's like, maybe you should be like the six-figure coach, or promise people they're going to have 500 clients in the first year. And I was like, no, that isn't the promise. I definitely have a value around prosperity and making a profit. It's huge to me. Actually, we can talk more about that. Like that's a huge piece that money get earned through this endeavor, but it has to be soul driven. So then we said, well, what if we call it Soul Driven Success Business Academy? And at the time,
Bingo,
woo,
bingo,
woo, woo, woo. And
bingo.
here we are 6 years later. It's still, this is what it is. And we
Yeah.
now have a full blown academy. We have 5 courses that are guaranteed to bring you business success. We have our academy is an engaged community of coaches. We have group calls, we have buddies, we have beautiful things, and we have a high level of support and leadership. Those are like the pillars of the Soul Driven Success Academy. We have those now. I'm really thrilled to say, although the fifth course, as I speak, is still getting its upgrade. It's getting its upgrade before we launch it in January, the Soul Strategy Vision course. So now we have it. We've worked for 6 years to create the academy, to make it everything we wanted it to be. And it is everything we wanted it to be. I want to go back, though, to the origin story. When we launched, and see if you remember this, Curtis. When we launched, it was a fun launch. We had a web designer. We had a fun little website. The web designer, David, I just love him. He's like, but you don't have a course, Kat. How can you launch an academy? I'm looking at this website, and if I'm going to help you launch an academy, you got to have things that you're teaching people. You at least need one course. And I laughed. It just made me laugh because I knew what I had. And I knew all that I had created over the years needed to get evolved, why I call it evolve your coaching business. So it wasn't in form yet. I didn't have it in the form, but I knew I could bring it to people one on one. I knew I could teach it. There's a way we can teach things and bring things that isn't necessarily in form. But sometimes, what is the term? It's not, I know you hate the term fake it to make it, but what is another term that's like that?
Act as if.
Act, act as if. Act as if. So because this is something I had learned years and years ago in when I learned about manifesting, making something a creation. I'm going to just do a little side story here. You know this story. But I had this idea that I was bad at public speaking. I was afraid of it. Not that I was bad at it, I was afraid of it. So I challenged myself to act as if I was good at it. And I went to a training for the Postal Service where I worked at the time. And I volunteered to get up in front of the room to describe something that this team and I were working on. And maybe it was 3 months later, I got a call from a guy offering me a very cool job, like a very cool job that I couldn't have imagined. And I was like, why me? And he said, well, I was at this training. I was kind of in the back of the room a few months ago, just kind of watching it. And I saw you do your presentation and I thought you were really good. And I thought, I think that person could be good for this job. I feel like I love to tell this story because I was scared. I didn't have it all together. I didn't, but there's something in me that really, again, so there's an acting as if it wasn't like I think I'm terrible at public speaking. I was just afraid. I have fear. I had some terrible saboteurs. So I want to link this story to what I'm wanting to teach you all when you're building your business and this is our origin story. I want you to be thinking about yours. There's going to come a moment when you have to act as if you've got enough of the information. You've got the stuff out there on the website. I mean, some of the things I stated on our first website were things I knew, but I didn't actually literally have that worksheet created yet. And you were like, Kat, we don't have that worksheet. I'm like, but I could do it in 10 minutes. I could get it done. So
Somebody wants it, they'll get it.
so this is a tip. Just when you get enough, when you know your niche, when you know what you really want to bring forward, and will be part of your origin story to pass on to the people that you work with. You're going to tell them, here's what sparked me to actually make this a business. Yes, I wanted to be a coach. Yes, but I actually wanted to make it a business because oh my gosh, this is what I have to offer people. I actually know some things. I'm passionate about it and I know enough that I have faith I can bring it to you and bring you what you need. So that's tip. Maybe it's number 3. I don't know. I wasn't counting the tips. But get to the point where you can act as if and just put it out there like, here it is. Because that's how you're going to get all the inside stuff. Then you start getting the feedback. I started working. I had a really great response to my first initial outlay where I said, hey, I'm starting an academy. Who would like to be in my first courses? And then I got people in the courses and I started learning how to put the courses together. and really figuring out what the order was and what people most needed to learn and how I could organize things better. Because I just put them in a general organization and it kept getting better and better to where it is today, where it's really landed in this academy that's a real academy. But this tip, I said I was going to give you a tip, and I am. You, you this is a bit like the tip of act as if you want to start with the end in mind. So
Hmm.
wherever you are now, yeah, because it's like I get this in the private coaching I do with clients so often. They're like, well, maybe I should just start with one-on-one coaching. And maybe I should just do, it's like, first, this is why the vision is so important. First, let's say, how do you want this to look? Like, if it could be any way you wanted, would you do team coaching, executive coaching, group coaching? Would you do workshops? Would you do speeches? Do you want to have speaking be a major part of your income? I've been doing some research on that right now. It's like, it's a great way to make money as well as attract clients. Let's look at how you would really want this to be, because that's what we did with the academy. And I know at times it made you nervous, Curtis, that we were aiming. I mean, it felt kind of high. Like, really? Are we going to be able to deliver this?
Not at times, Kat. Most of the time.
What do you have to say? At time?
Well, so I'm
Okay,
very
okay.
cautious and
So for
careful of
so
left
for the
brain. But here's what I'm hearing is when you hit the tone right, when your niche resonates with you, when you do it step by step and you trust yourself and you it's going to work and you put yourself out there and you gather the feedback and you really keep looking for what is satisfies your soul and what's the work that does good in the world and what's the work that is profitable. Those are the three things you've taught me over and over and over again, as well as just take the risk, Curtis, and it'll
take the
work out.
risk. You take the risk, you keep taking the steps. Now, here's the thing with this origin story, like any's, we did not know how this was all going to come about. I did not know how. The big how. How am I? The things that Curtis just said, though, play this back and write those down. Those were brilliant. Like, that's really it. You want to go to those things. You don't have to know how, because the how is in the steps, taking the journey, being willing to take the risk, and to keep going. I did know that part. How is you keep going past the challenges. Some of the things we did really succeeded, other things were total failures. And this was a big learning for me in this journey. I don't have time on this podcast, maybe another one to tell you about the big pivot, but it is in my book, Evolve Your Coaching Business. There are times when we had to pivot. There were times when we did something and it didn't work out. But what came from it was, oh, let's take a look at why that didn't work out. Not in a way to make you wrong, but like there was a reason it didn't work out. And mostly I found out almost all the time was because I hadn't stayed true to what I knew was going to be good. I listened to somebody else's advice without including my own wisdom. So a soul driven success, that's our biggest encouragement. Take our advice or other people's advice, but take it with your own wisdom guiding you. Oh, so we're getting ready to land. I just want to say again,
Amen, Kat. Amen.
in January, we're gonna be we're gonna be offering soul strategy vision course. There's going to be a January workshop where we're going to help you look at your vision for next year. And please go to the website, go to the link that's in along with this podcast, sign up for the December event, the year in review. You're going to be hearing a lot more about it on this podcast because I think it's one of the best events we do
Yep.
because it really will give you the choice, the chance to see the story. We're very big on stories. We've just told you a little story of ours, but at the December event, you'll be able to craft the story of your year and what it means to you so that you can move forward into the next year knowing, yes, these are the things I did. Here's what I want to leave behind. Here's what I'm proud of that I want to carry forward. I feel like we just touched what did they say? The tip of the iceberg on this story, Curtis. So I'd love if you would come back and join me again someday. Do you think you could do that?
I think I could. I
Well,
enjoyed this, Kat. Thank you.
well, it's really been fun having you on the show and, giving your voice to the creation of this business because you have been, a big factor in bringing it to life. And I so appreciate your partnership. And thank you for that. And I look forward to having you on again sometime soon.
All righty.
Thank you to everybody who's listening. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have questions, things you want to know more about. I love hearing from you. Be sure to join me on my You can join the Soul Driven Success community, the one that we're talking about. Find out more about the academy or just come in and say hello. All right. Until next time, make it a good one.